Good morning and welcome to our program on this Lord's Day morning. I hope that you're doing well, and I would love to extend an invitation to you to join us in our services today at Pyburn Street Church of Christ. We will come together this morning at 9 o'clock for Bible study, followed by worship at 9:50. We will also come together this evening at 6 o'clock, and tonight will be our monthly question and answer night. This is always a very enjoyable evening that we have together in studying subjects from God's Word that have been submitted either by members of the congregation or those who listen to our radio programs or hear our sermons through YouTube. And we always have a good study on our question and answer night, and we would love for you to join us tonight at 6 o'clock for that study. We also come together on Wednesday evenings at 6 o'clock for midweek Bible study. Our adult class on Wednesday nights is engaged in a study of Christian evidences. And those that listen to this program on Sunday mornings, you know that we've been looking at some supplementary information that goes hand in hand with this subject of Christian evidences. And what we're looking at on Wednesday nights is a much more in-depth study than what we are able to cover in these Sunday morning lessons. And so we would love for you to come and join us for those Wednesday night classes at 6 o'clock. We would love for you to come and join us for any of these upcoming services at Pyburn Street Church of Christ. Well, so far in our study of the existence of God, the evidence supporting the existence of God, we've briefly examined what's known as the cosmological argument, which states that every creation must have a creator. But we've also spent quite a bit of time looking at some lessons that would fall under the heading of the teleological argument. The teleological argument states that every design must have a designer. We've briefly examined various aspects of our universe and how everything in our galaxy is mathematically precise, and how the earth has just the right placement in order to sustain human life. We've examined many facts about the earth, its atmosphere, the oceans, and geology in order to show that everything is too complex to have just happened by some random chance. We also looked at some scientific foreknowledge as set forth in the Bible. Well, this morning in this lesson, we're going to continue to look at this concept known as the teleological argument, and we're going to look at the human body because we find that it too defies the concept of evolution. As the ancient scholar Augustine said, men go abroad to wonder at the height of the mountains, at the huge waves of the sea, at the long course of the rivers, at the vast compass of the earth, at the circular motion of the stars, and they pass by themselves without wondering. What Augustine is saying is that sometimes we get so caught up in looking at the beauty and the complexity of the universe and other living things around us that we forget to think about how marvelous and how complex we as human beings are. Now, those who do not want to believe in God simply try to explain away our origin by saying that we somehow magically evolved from that first creature that crawled out of the water into the complex creature that we are today, and that all of this simply happened by chance. Well, the more we learn from modern science of just how complex we are, the more ridiculous this idea of evolution really becomes. Even evolutionists cannot deny the immense complexity of the human body. As one evolutionist said, when you come right down to it, the most incredible creation in the universe is you, with your fantastic senses and strengths, your ingenious defense systems and mental capacities so great that you can never use them to their fullest. Your body is a structural masterpiece, more amazing than any science fiction. Now, can anyone honestly describe a human as being a structural masterpiece and then in the same breath say that this masterpiece just happened by chance or by luck? Or does it make more sense that this masterpiece at an artist? Well, friends, to me, the answer is very simple. God is the artist that created us. And every part of our body, down to our cells, screams intelligent design, and not just some lucky mutation over a long period of time. Well, for simplicity's sake, let's break down the body into 4 areas. First, we see there are the cells, which are the smallest unit of life. Secondly, there are tissues such as muscle tissue and nerve tissue. Third, there are organs such as the heart and lungs and liver and kidneys. And there are systems such as the circulatory system and the digestive system. And when you examine these 4 areas of the body and how they cause the body to live and function, it becomes quite clear that our bodies were designed. As Brother Wayne Jackson said, it is therefore quite clear that the physical body has been marvelously designed and intricately organized for the purpose of facilitating human existence upon the planet Earth. So first, let's consider the complexity of a cell. It has been estimated that the average adult has 100 trillion cells in their body. If our cells were put end to end, they could encircle the Earth 200 times. Now, our cells are different shapes, sizes, have different life expectancies depending upon what their function. For example, our red blood cells are saucer-shaped and are fairly flat, which makes it easier for them to transfer the oxygen and carbon dioxide that they carry through the body. But then you have nerve cells, which have long, thin extensions that transmit messages to various parts of the body. Now, before we had the technology to examine a cell closely, some thought the cell was nothing more than just some type of blob of material. As Lester and Heffley put it, we once thought that the cell, the basic unit of life, was a simple bag of photoplasm. Then we learned that each cell in any life form is a teeming micro-universe of compartments, structures, and chemical agents. But then whenever we look at this small single cell, we find that it can be broken down into 3 major categories. We see there's the cell membrane, which encloses and protects the organism. This is a very thin layer that consists of protein and fat, and it acts like a filter by only allowing certain things to come in and go out. As Dr. Ernest Borick, who is an evolutionist, said, the membrane recognizes with its uncanny molecular memory hundreds of compounds swimming around it and permits or denies passage according to the cell's requirement. Now, though scientists like this can see such complexity in the cell, it's uncanny. They also want to continue on to chalk it up to some random mutation that simply happened by chance over time. And just this one layer of our cell shows that it was intelligently designed. But then within the second part of the cell, known as cytoplasm, it contains a number of specialized components. For example, there are 1,000 mitochondria, which are miniature power plants that burn the food taken in for energy. It also contains tiny networks called endoplasmic reticulum, which are involved in transporting materials from one part of the cell to another. There's also microscopic units called ribosomes, which produce protein. But then the third part of the cell is known as the nucleus, which is the brain of the cell. And the nucleus contains chromosomes and a chemical called DNA. DNA is a super molecule that carries the genetic information necessary for the replication of the cell. If the DNA found in one of our cells was decoded into English, it would fill a 1,000 volume set of encyclopedias that are all around 600 pages each. Of course, if we do the math, that is 600,000 pages of information. As you try to visualize that amount of information and how much space it would take up in books, again, remember, This is just the DNA that is found in one single cell. And even more amazing than that is the amount of space it takes to house all the DNA that makes up a human as it is found in our bodies, because it would fit in a container about the size of an aspirin tablet. Now I ask you, do you think that amount of information, which is stored chemically in such a small package, could just happen by chance? By some random mutation? Or do you see it like I do as something that had to have been intelligently designed? Let me share with you another statement from Brother Wayne Jackson. He said a DNA molecule is composed of units of nucleotides. These are chemical combinations of sugar phosphate and 4 bases, adenine, thymine, guanine, and cytosine. These bases bind the nucleotides in the spiral DNA molecule. In a strand of DNA, the nucleotides are arranged in a specific order along what sort of looks like a twisted ladder. The order of arrangement forms the blueprint that regulates the production of all living things. Folks, it does not matter if you're looking at the cells of a tree, a mouse, or a human being. The DNA is the blueprint that tells the cells what to be. The DNA code is like having a program for a computer. If you install that program on the computer, then you will be able to use that computer. But also, depending upon what program you install on that computer, that will determine what type of system is on that computer. Hence, you look at the kind of DNA that is there. If it is the DNA of a tree, it came from a tree. If it is the DNA of a mouse, it's from a mouse. Or if it's the DNA of a human being, it is from a human being. Now, you stop and you ask this. Did the code that makes that computer program work, did it just happen by chance? Or did it have to have a creator? Well, it had a creator. Well, folks, the same thing is true when you look at our DNA or the DNA of other creatures. This code did not just appear, and it stands to reason that it was created by an intelligent designer, and that intelligent designer is God. In their book, The Mystery of Life's Origin, the authors of this book ask a very interesting question. An intelligible communication via radio signal from some distant galaxy would be wildly hailed as evidence of an intelligent source. So why then doesn't the message sequence of the DNA molecule also constitute evidence of an intelligent source? Well, Dr. James Coppage had this to say. He said, by all the rules of reason, could there be a code which carries a message without someone originating that code? It would seem self-evident that any such complex message system, which is seen to be wise and efficient, requires not only an intelligence, but a person behind it. One more fact about DNA is that it contains the code of life, but it cannot implement the code directly to produce things. Instead, the DNA produces an acid that's known as RNA, which takes the blueprint from the DNA and turns it into a reality. To put it another way, DNA is the contractor, RNA is the worker who does the building. So these two must work together in order to assemble the human body. And again, these complex things working together to form the human body, friends, are a clear testament to the fact that we are designed by God. Friends, I agree with what David had to say, and this is what I want to leave you with this morning from Psalm 139 and verse 13. For you formed my inward parts. You covered me in my mother's womb. I will praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Friends, we want to thank you for joining us for our program this morning, and we pray that God blesses you with a wonderful Lord's Day.